Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Talking Cardboard. This time we're doing a first impressions video of a brand new game called The Great Wall. We've got a slightly new addition to our crew this week. As usual, we have John to my right. I'm Jerch. We've got Corey to my immediate left. And on the far end there is Adam, and he brought this really cool new game for us. Adam, tell us about it.
Yeah, so this is Awaken Realms, The Great Wall. They're usually known for their long legacy campaign games, and this is their first trek into a worker placement game. Played over a series of rounds, and each round is known as a year, and it's broken down into seasons. And the majority of the game takes place in the fall section. As a basic premise, each player gets an asymmetric player power, known as a general. And those are decided on in the beginning of the game. They also each get advisor cards, and it's more asymmetric powers that they can accumulate through the course of the game in order to affect gameplay. Basic premise is you get a hand of cards, each player does, and you'll play the card and then we'll all resolve the actions. At the heart of the game, at the bottom, you'll see is just worker placement spots. And so the majority of the game, you're collecting resources, deploying troops, and moving on the T-track to determine turn order. Each season, hordes attack from the north and try to breach the wall. So through the course of the game, as we're getting our resources, we use those resources to build up the wall sections to defend against the horde. Based on how we do against the horde, if we defeat it, players will get victory points to accumulate final scoring.
That is basically the game in a nutshell. As Adam alluded to, there's a lot going on. We didn't just stage this as you see in front of us. This was really just after a playthrough we did. Corey, how do you think it went?
I thought it was really fun. It went really well. I did take last place, which is par for the course, but even that being said, I had a blast the whole time. It took a really long time to play the first playthrough. Obviously, learning the game and teaching the game for the first time, it's going to take a little bit longer. I know on the box it says 2 to 3 hours, which is the typical game length, which I think if it took 2 to 3 hours, it just would have been a blast the whole way through. I'm not going to give any spoilers to my final thoughts on it until the end of the video here, but I really liked the twist to all the different components to the game, all the different mechanisms. Yeah, it had your common worker placement tropes. It had your traditional building up together. I know there's not a whole lot of semi-co-op games out there, but this one I think really did it well and had some twists to some common gameplay tropes.
Oh, absolutely. It was a semi-co-op that was a solid theme with it too, because a lot of times in co-op or semi-co-op, it's either really heavy on the theme side of it or on the trying to cooperate and not necessarily the push and pull. John, what did you think about the semi-ness of the semi-cooperative?
I really liked it. It reminded me a lot of that sheep dam game we played when the channel first started, and no one would build up the fort.
Oh, yeah.
It would flood and kill all our farms.
Yep. And tidal blades.
Yeah, and tidal blades. Mm-hmm. Yep. And, I think it does it really well. There was clearly a strategy and point in time where Adam found it smart to let the horde come through our middle wall because they killed mine and Church's archers.
Yep, we lost a lot of good archers.
Really bad for us. So.
Yeah, thanks, Adam.
Yeah, and it didn't have a betrayal component, which a lot of semi-cooperative games have.
Right.
Something like Nemesis and their other games, where there may be a betrayer or maybe not.
Outside of the card that is literally betrayal.
Yeah. Yeah, but there wasn't a lot of like all versus many or something like that. It was just you're trying to help each other out just enough to benefit each other, but there's points you certainly need to let. It might be better to let the horde win in order to kill a lot of the other players' units.
Yeah. And it didn't seem like a whole lot of take that either. There was a lot of times, a lot of moments in the game where I really felt like, hey, can you help me out here? Sure, I really don't mind helping you out here because it's going to help me out too. And it really had a good balance between those two. When to help somebody out, when to not help somebody out. And it really felt really fun. Really fun the whole time. And
there's a lot of good opportunities for communication when you're trying to fill up some of the rows or areas to trigger, getting the resources, is we're able to communicate with each other and say, hey, are you going to go here to finish this out, or do I need to do it myself? Well, I don't know, maybe, fine, I'll put all my guys there, and then I'll just finish it off. Yep. But it didn't feel like you were betraying anybody, like you guys were saying. It was just, I'll just do the heavy lifting myself on this one. And I thought that was a really cool, I'm not going to do it myself, or I not feel like I am a betrayer, but I just have to do more heavy lifting on my own to get my avenues towards it.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the very first game that's ever had that mechanism to it, to where you have to fill out the entire worker placement spot to have it trigger, or playing cards or playing different actions that allow you to trigger it sooner than it normally would.
Yeah, that the triggering sooner. I certainly have seen things don't get activated until they fully fill up. But the only negative victory points in the game are what's known as shame, and shame
was a good
only.
aspect, yeah.
And shame is really only if you don't work together. So a lot of those worker placement spots at the bottom of the board, if you're the only one doing it or the only one on it, you're getting shamed. So it encourages cooperation. As if you just have two people, then neither one of you are going to be getting
And
shamed.
that brings up an excellent mechanism of the shame, of the negative points. First of all, you can guess which one of us four ended up with the most shame.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah. But what you can do is you can mitigate how you lose that shame. Is either you can take the 5 points in losing a specific troop, or you can be using your rewards that you'd get. I don't have any within reach of me.
There's an
yeah.
example right
Like the
there.
hordes.
So on your the different units that you can take down, is you can use a couple hits on that in order to fill it up with shame. So you're costing victory points, but kind of mitigating the losses on that.
Yeah.
And it was a really good balancing of how you could be losing those points. So as somebody who had a little bit of shame towards the end, and it's fun to make jokes about, oh, you got a lot of shame over there, that you're able to kind of maneuver it a little bit. I noticed in the game that we played, Adam, you didn't have any shame. Did you have a concerted effort for that, or did that just kind of sort of happen?
Yeah, my goal is to not get any shame.
Easy.
I needed chi. So the only way to get rid of shame is in the summer phase. You can spend chi to get rid of your shame, and chi I needed on some of my advisor cards. So I really didn't want to have to use that in order to clear it.
Well, and that brings up another good aspect with the advisor cards is all these are really strong. I didn't think any of them were game breaking, but you can be recruiting these to help build an engine for your combinations of how you're managing your resources, how you're getting your troops further on the board. A lot of great stuff that made each of the characters and each of the playthroughs much more unique, but you were building up to it. And I thought that was a really great aspect of it that didn't move too fast, move too slow. John, what did you think of that aspect of this game?
I really liked the advisors. Like you said, there was none that seemed overly powerful, and I don't think there were any that were like clearly bad either. Everything seemed very balanced. I like you can either tuck your advisor as a support, or you can have an active one off to the side, and if they're a support, they basically boost your general's power, which I think is cool.
That's really cool.
My general's power was actually really good. Well, I'm sure they're all good, but it was easy to take advantage of, and I probably should have boosted it more, but I was out trying to play the board and see how everything works, so I got very sidetracked.
Yeah, John, are there any other pros to this game that we haven't quite touched on yet?
Yes, I think actually my favorite thing of this game, or one of them, is the cards you play each turn. And you're trying to guess what everyone else is playing, because obviously you all have this it's like 7 cards that you have in your hand, and certain cards say if, you get to move 3 of your workers around, but if someone played this card, for every one of those that were played, you get to move an additional worker or do some other type of bonus action for each of that card that was played. So I think that aspect of trying to deduce what other people are going to play was very interesting. Although no one ever played cards when I thought they would, so it really didn't matter.
Yeah, but and there's a little bit of deductive reasoning in what other people would play, and it's thematic with it too. Like if people were raising banners and you were attacking, it was going to boost your attacking.
Yep.
So it tied and flowed really nicely. Did either one of you guys find any opportunity where you correctly guessed whether people were going to play?
Hard to predict for me.
Yeah, just once.
The last turn was pretty.
But you feel
obvious,
good when it happens.
Yeah.
You feel like you hit the lottery.
I think the bigger aspect with that is, which we didn't take advantage of in this game, is when to pull back your hand of cards. Because that's another thing with the game too. Is if you're not pulling back your hand of cards, you get 2 points per card. 2 points per card that you leave in the discard pile
Every season.
every single season throughout the game. And it's like none of us pulled back the cards, but there might have been a good opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. Another couple big pros for me too. One we've already kind of touched on is heavy Euro games generally don't have this cohesive or heavy of a theme attached to it too. The theme just was integrated so well. Everything felt like you were doing what you were trying to do, like thematically. And another thing too is the variability. I think the variability, like we were talking about before the video started here, is that there's so many different expansion content. But even in the base box itself, you've got how many different advisors, how many different mission cards,
Or
throughout the game.
generals, too.
Or generals to mix in and mix out, and draw two at the beginning of the game and choose one to play with, and everything is super variable. So that's really cool too.
Yeah, 2 points that I really liked were we were all fairly close to each other, and we didn't need to get every single worker. And so you start out with 5, and you have 3 that are available to purchase. In a lot of worker placement games, it's who can get the max out the workers the fastest will win. We had people that got 3, that got 2, and that got 1. And we were all still competitive. The second thing I liked is the player shields. They only blocked a couple things, cards and resources. And that was really useful because when building the wall sections, you can use any resources. But in a lot of games, you can just calculate, oh, you have this many resources, so I'm not going to do this action or I'm not going to do this. But not knowing however many resources people had, it was very difficult to keep track of. I certainly wouldn't be able to count that. That made it really fun to build the wall sections because they can cost 5, 10, and 15 resources, but they're worth as many points. So I liked both of those aspects a lot.
And I think a couple little tiny highlights of mine too is, first of all, I was the Turtle Clan. I haven't seen any family or color scheme or anything like that that's been turtles before, so I thought that was kind of cool. I kind of envisioned myself as Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, they're usually ninjas, but not in this game.
Yeah. So it was, and then also with some of the hordes that were attacking, when it was the pikemen, was it pike or spear? And so
Pikemen,
the spots that you could attack were arranged in such a way that you couldn't attack with your horse, which was twice as large as your spearmen, your regular foot soldiers.
And like the shield wielders, you couldn't shoot your bow and arrows at the shield people.
Well, but I liked how the spaces were physically arranged, so you couldn't physically put that on the board because horses are weak against sharp sticks. Yep. So I just thought that tiny little thematic mechanism was it was a really cool touch.
Yeah.
So everything in this game seems like it's well thought out, it's well organized, thematic, but it's not over the top, it's not convoluted, even though there's a lot going on here. Once we got into the rhythm of the game, I felt like it was really smooth.
Very smooth, and I think it'll be really easy to teach to future players now that we understand the game. It just took one half playthrough to start understanding it. By the end of the game, we all understood it. So
I guess we can move on to any cons or anything like that. John, do you have any initial cons about this game?
I would say the only thing that might turn people off is that initial learn to play is a little rough, but honestly the game's not as complex as it probably seems at first look. So that's
I know that the rulebook, the iconography is really simple and straightforward. The way that the cards are worded, even though there's a lot of components to it, it's very straightforward and easy to pick up with how everything is structured and organized. But yeah, I can see how this would be kind of daunting. Corey, do you have any cons initially?
The only con for me, and it's not going to be a con for everybody, it's just a slight con, is maybe all the... There's not like a ton of text on each of the cards, but there is kind of a lot going on. I know on like BGG, it's like a 3.63 out of 5, so it is kind of on that heavier scale to where you do have to kind of pay attention to maybe learning what some of the advisors do. Or, I found myself ignoring a couple of the aspects of the game, especially during the first gameplay, because I was just trying to kind of focus on a few things and not get too overwhelmed. But even halfway through the game, we realized that there was endgame scoring cards here that we had forgotten about, but... Little things like that I think will come easier with time and more plays, but this first playthrough, it did seem like a lot of things to kind of read and keep track of just with the cards.
Yeah, so Adam, you know this game a little bit better than the rest of us. Are there any cons that you've seen, at least in your kind of playthroughs with it?
I think the rule book is probably the biggest con. There was a really good rules video teach out there, but it is long. It's about an hour. But that one was good. But the back, just showing the flow of the game, once you got that down, it was good. I think the other con for me would be just when you're packing up the game, you have to...
Which we're not going to do.
You have to disassemble the walls to kind of get it fit in the base core box. So if you were to, glue them or something like that to try to keep them a little bit more stable, I don't see a great way to keep all the walls intact. I just used the stretch goal box and it worked out nicely. But that would be the second con. I'm not sure if they could have made the box maybe a little bit bigger, put a section that they could have, done that. But otherwise, there's two versions of the game. There's the Meeple version, which we have, and there's a full miniatures version. But I didn't think this took it away from much. No. Certainly the game is probably more beautiful to look at, but thought this worked very well. The other con is probably a little long, but I think that we could sharpen down it quite a bit on a second play. But I thought 4 players was good.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd want to do 5, but 4 felt really good with just the way we could build the wall sections.
So because this is just a first impressions, we can kind of wrap it up here and give a rating on this. So as usual, we'll just go right down the line. And John, what kind of rating would you give this game on your first impression?
I'm going to start with an 8. I like it. I'll definitely play it again. We'll see how that develops as I get more plays in.
What's something you'd be looking for to raise the grade?
Win.
It's not all about winning, John.
I want to win.
I just want to win.
Yeah, that usually would raise the grade on a game. If you actually win.
I think I just want to actually focus on a strategy. I think this first game I kind of just branched out to see how all the mechanics work and left it at that.
Yeah, very similar thinking. I would go an 8.5 or so. I usually get overwhelmed and a lot of analysis paralysis for games where there's so many mechanisms going on. I didn't feel that with this one. I know that my turns usually take longer, but that's just something I accept. And these guys reluctantly do as well because they don't have much of a choice. But I never felt like overwhelmed to where I needed to just focus on one or two things, that I could let the game kind of come to me and enjoy what's going on. And I know with combinations of different cards going on that there will be a lot of replayability for me, and something I really hope that we're able to get to the table a lot more. So I'd say 8.5 that has an opportunity to grow, but obviously you're so close to a high score that there's not much room to, but it's really fun.
Yeah.
Corey, what do you think?
This game really surprised the heck out of me. It would not have been one that I would have normally backed, so good thing Adam did. But it is just mechanically just so cool in every little aspect. I mean, everything from the worker placement being unique to any other game that I've ever had in my collection, and the card play out of your hand to do different actions, and then even the co-op nature or the semi-cooperative nature of it on this top half of the board is just so cool, and it integrates everything so well that I'm going to give the game a 9.5 right off the bat.
No.
So it's got room to fall. But I mean, first impressions 9.5. We'll see how it goes with more plays. I don't know if it'll become stale or more or samey after a while, but I don't see that happening because of the variability in the game. And if we were to pick up a couple expansions and integrate that too, I see this game staying fresh. But like I said, just throughout the entire game, there wasn't really a dull moment for me. I felt myself finding something new to kind of toy with in every aspect of the board throughout the whole game. So
Wow,
9.5.
excellent. That's surprising.
Yeah, I like it.
All right, Adam, take us home.
Yeah, I'm coming in with about a 9. I like that it mentioned a little bit of direction. I like that the generals help give you a little bit of a direction as far as with each different general I play with. You know, this I'm going to go for heavy recruiting. This I'm going to go for heavy worker placement. This I'm going to try to recruit clerics fast. Gives me enough direction where that I'm not always trying to pigeonhole to the same strategy. Each combination of the general plus the advisors gives a lot of different flexibility, but still enough direction to carry me forward towards a plan. Yeah, I'm excited to dive into the other stretch goals. There's a couple mini expansions and things like that, but very impressed with that the semi-co-op worked. Most semi-co-op games I've tried, I really stay away from, but this really worked for me. And then seeing the walls get built, that interaction between that and the horde, plus worker placement, which is definitely one of my favorite. Very, very impressed on the first impressions.
That could be why it was so high for me too, because you typically don't see all that work together so well.
Yeah.
So
you have to. It's not a solitaire game. You have to pay attention when you're placing your workers, as well as what cards people used on the command phase, who they're going to attack, who you think they're going to attack on the horde phase. I mean, you have to pay attention to everything that people are doing, but not so much so that it would cause too much analysis paralysis.
Yeah, so we're going to cut this video short because we're going to play it one more time tonight before we call it a night.
yeah, it's only midnight.
Sounds
It's
good.
only a minute. So from all of us here at Talking Cardboard, look out for The Great Wall. See if you can get a copy of it because we obviously, our first impression, we really enjoy it. Take care.